Welcome to Zoom for the Assistive Technologist. It is Thursday, April 9th, 2020, and this Lunch and Learn is hosted by the Network of Assistive Technologists. This session is being brought to you to help educate those who may be familiar with Zoom platform but are not necessarily familiar with all the features that it offers to the Assistive Technologists as we're working from our remote environments thanks to the COVID-19 situation we find ourselves in. So just before we get started into the topic of the day, go over a few housekeeping points. First of all, captioning is available at note.ca/cc. And I ask that you save your questions till the end. We're on a tight timeline today, trying to get this session in on a lunch hour. The replay link will be sent out shortly after the event as well. So what is Zoom? Well, Zoom is a cross-platform web conference solution. It's available on any kind of device as long as you have an internet connection. It gives you the video and audio conferencing and collaboration tools where you can share video, audio, screens, application, and files, and provides remote support, and again, you can join from just about any device. So why would an assistive technologist use Zoom? Well, there's many reasons beyond just straight one-to-one meetings between your colleagues or your partners, students, and suppliers. You can also do some online AT assessments and intakes. You can offer tutoring and office hours or drop-in hours by opening up a Zoom room. You can give students remote support or sharing of computer resources and group presentations and trainings. So what tools does it have for an assistive technologist? Well, it has the ability to share audio and video, plus with video with sound. And that's something that a lot of web conferencing options don't allow, is for the sharing of sound when you're doing a screen share. But Zoom does offer that. So screen sharing, annotation, text, chat, breakout rooms, file transfers, link sharing, two-way computer remote control, application sharing, recording your sessions. And the recording your sessions, you can also build yourself some training libraries as you're going. So some caveats when using Zoom. There's a few that I want you to be aware of. And drawing your attention to one that's quite important is that Zoom doesn't always necessarily meet all the applicable privacy requirements, so you do need to check on that first. And all parties need a device and an internet connection. So as we're aware, some of the situations our students find themselves in due to the COVID-19 situation, they may not have an internet connection, or at the very least it might not be a reliable one. There's also a slight learning curve, so I suggest you build into your agenda or do some pre-work with those that are participating in your meetings. And remember to close any windows that you have open on your computer that you don't want to be seen. It's happened to all of us, or it soon will, and if you don't want it seen, there's only one way to avoid that, and that's to close that window before you start. So before you start your Zoom meeting, you need to be aware who your audience is. As assistive technologists, this is something that we do quite frequently, so don't forget that we need to match the tools that we want to use to the audience and do a bit of pre-planning. You want to have some practice with those tools, and you also want to build in some setup time, make sure you're ready for the meeting, and allow time for the meeting to go over time in case there's any kind of problems or you get involved in a discussion or that. Maybe there's even a late start into your actual content due to some technical difficulties. So the prerequisites, you really need to make sure that your audience has all that they need and get them help being set up and ready to go before, making sure that they're able to navigate that learning curve. So in your studio, your work area where you're going to be broadcasting from, we'll talk about virtual backgrounds shortly. And also using the built-in camera, it's better than nothing, but if you're able to use an external webcam, sometimes you can get a better picture, and it offers fine-tune adjustments through the included software. So either way, for the camera, if you can try and have it at eye level or just above, so when you're looking at the screen, you can have eye contact with your audience. It's nothing worse than having somebody looking down at you through the entire webinar because they're looking down on the laptop that's below them and all you see is their nose hairs. So The other thing you want to consider is captioning and accommodation requests in general. I won't go into any details about how I do the captioning for these kind of sessions, although it's pretty rudimentary. I will answer questions at the end, or if you want to contact me directly, I'll be happy to go over that and show you how it's done. But whether you want to save some money with going with a homemade solution or hiring an external caption provider, and again, whether that external caption provider, or whether the solution itself is automated or a human involved, either way, captioning is something that you do need to look into and provide. Zoom is working on it. It's rumored that in the very near future there will be an inline live captioning option coming, but until then, there's other solutions out there. So how do you schedule a Zoom meeting? Well, first of all, you have to set up an account, and you either do that at zoom.us, so zoom.us, and we're just going to go there now. And so you either set up an account with one of their free plans or a paid plans, or if you already have an account, you sign in. And if I'm signing in here, and I apologize, one wrong click, and we'll sign in with my Google account, which it's linked to. And you'll see here in a moment that you're taken into my list of upcoming meetings. And what we want to do is I'm just going to take you through and highlight a couple different areas that you need to pay attention to from an assistive technology perspective. So this isn't a complete training on how to schedule a meeting. It's simply to highlight a few areas that we as assistive techs need to be aware of and can benefit from. So clicking the blue button to start scheduling a new meeting, you type in your meeting title here, and I apologize, pressed enter instead of tab, which accepted my meeting. So anyways, going back, under the description, you put in your information here, and then you would choose your time and date for your meeting. Let's say next Wednesday, the 15th at 1 p.m. One thing to note, everybody experienced a 12:15 start today, which allowed me to get off of another Zoom meeting, which went over time. And get onto this one and set up. So I appreciate you starting at an odd time, but it also gave me an opportunity to show you that Zoom lets you set up a time based on half-hour increments. So with those half-hour increments, if you do need to start in between them, choose the one before. It's just an estimate, and it happens to translate into the calendar invites. That's the only thing that the time is used for, as well as the duration is only used for that as well. If you're setting up reoccurring meetings, you do have the option to choose different settings here based on how often you want it to reoccur and for how many weeks or days, how many occurrences. Registration, whether it's required or not. If you do require registration, it changes the links a little bit, and it also gives you some options to collect information during the registration, as you all experienced by joining this meeting live. So I'll show you that in a moment. The meeting ID, I do suggest very strongly that you let it be generated automatically. Personal meeting IDs should be treated as a non-published phone number. Those meeting IDs, or personal meeting IDs, can be changed if need be, but once somebody has your personal meeting ID, if you don't have a password on your meetings in the future and you're using it again, they can jump onto your meeting with no problems. So brings me to the point of requiring a meeting password. Zoom has just introduced recently a change that is going to require most meetings to have a password, and it's always a good idea. These settings in here about your host and participant video when it's starting, and then your audio as to whether people can join by computer, audio, telephone, or both. It's best to always leave it as both in case there's an option that they need to exercise by calling in. And these other meeting options here. You've got the enable to join before host. Something you likely don't want to be able to do is letting the people you're meeting with into the meeting room before you're there, unless it's a group that you're hosting that knows each other and they want to socialize first. Muting participants upon entry is a great idea to do, not so much at the beginning of the meeting, but people who join in the middle of the meeting, they then are able to join without you having to be concerned about their barking dog or that interrupting your meeting. Enabling the waiting room, again, you all experienced that today. It allows the host to put you on hold temporarily and bring you in individually or as a group when they're ready to start the meeting. If you're on a network or with a domain account, you can limit it to just the people who are in your domain. And breakout rooms we'll talk about in a little while. You can pre-assign them here or during the meeting, and whether you want to record the meeting automatically or start the recording at a point somewhere during the meeting. So we'll save those options and create this meeting. It then takes you to a confirmation screen where you see the information you've just entered. There's your meeting ID and your meeting password. And there's a registration link. So that registration link is what you would send out to people to fill the details in, and then they are emailed an attendance link, just like you were today to attend this meeting live. So I'll show you in a moment how how this differs when you're not registering. And here is just a confirmation of the settings that you chose earlier. You can save this as a meeting template. So if you're always going to be doing some coaching or those types of meetings and you want the same settings each time, you can save it as a template. And then down here at the bottom, the registration information that I was mentioning I wanted to show you. The number of registrants, once they start registering, will increase here, and then you can view the list by clicking on the view option over here. But if you edit the registration options, it gives you the chance to either automatically approve or manually approve them. And you also can in here, sorry, I just about missed this, is make sure you close the registration after the event date. Otherwise, people will be registering for your event weeks later if they still have the link. So apologize, the captioning just stopped for some reason. I'm restarting that now, and hopefully it will keep going. And I'm going to continue with the demonstration here. Under the questions tab, it gives you the option. It always starts with name and email address. Then you can choose any additional categories from here to add in. One that's really helpful for an assistive technologist is at the very bottom. That very bottom one gives you the option to allow participants to submit questions or comments about the webinar ahead of time. And you can gauge what your audience is aware of and or what the things are that they want to learn about. So you also have the option of adding custom questions. And by doing that, you can gather other information as part of the registration. So registration gives you a lot of options. It's quite powerful to look at. You can add your own logo and banners under the branding if you want. You can pre-create polls, or you can do that as you're doing the meeting live. And if you're hooked up with anything to live stream, such as Facebook Live or YouTube, and I think there's a few other service providers that they are connected with, you can set those up in your Zoom account settings and then connect them here. So I want to show you as well to go back and edit the meeting. There's a couple little things when you go back to edit it that I want to just show you how it changes. So I want to take off the registration, and I want to bring us back through and see what it looks like after if you're not requiring the registration. So you notice here now on your confirmation screen, you have a direct join link, and embedded in that join link is an encrypted version of the meeting password. So now you have the meeting ID, the meeting password, all in one link, and it's a direct join link that people can use, and you can send that out for attendees. So just wanted to show you that. Is the how to schedule a meeting. Your meeting then, once you've scheduled it, will show up in your list of upcoming meetings. When you're ready to host that, you come back into your Zoom account, you click on the meetings tab on the left, you click on the title of the meeting, and you're taken in here, and then up in the top corner, you have the option to start the meeting. If you're scrolling down to check your settings, that start meeting button is at the bottom as well. So let's now go back here into our presentation. And how does a participant join the meeting? Well, the participant joins the meeting fairly simply. They click on the link that you've sent them in the email, whether you've sent it directly or they've got it through the registration system. They may need to download a small program onto their computer if it's the first time they've ever attended a Zoom meeting. They also will have a choice to join by web browser if they don't have the ability to download that small program, knowing that if they join by web browser, they may be limited in some of their options as to how they can interact through the Zoom interface. They simply follow the prompts when they're downloading that little program, and then when they're ready, they click the microphone and/or camera and join the meeting. So how to host a Zoom meeting. I'm going to show you a little video clip. I apologize, it is about 14 minutes long. The fact is that it's very, very difficult for a person to demonstrate and teach you how to show a Zoom or to host a Zoom meeting because the Zoom controls don't show on screens on a screen share. So I had to do a screencast. So here we go. From the host perspective, I'm going to take you on a tour of the controls you find at the bottom of your screen. We'll start with the audio controls, noticing here that you have microphones and speakers that are installed on your computer, and you can choose independently from those lists and then test your speaker and microphone prior to going live. We'll go on over into the video settings now, and again, if you have more than one webcam, you can choose that, as well as you can go in and choose a virtual background. If you have pre-installed ones on the computer, you can choose them. If you've uploaded your own creations, you can choose those as well. If you do have a creation that you want to add into the list, you just use the plus icon here and select the file to upload it. So into the security tab, which is newly added from Zoom a few days ago. They've given us some quick access to some of the common features that you want in order to manage your session. You can remove participants. You can decide whether you want participants to be allowed to share their screen, chat amongst each other, as well as whether they can rename themselves or not. Here you can also enable or disable the waiting room, and you can lock the meeting so nobody else can join once you start. So let's have a look at the participants. Right now we have Dr. Google, and Dr. Google is waiting to join the meeting. We're not letting him in quite yet because I want to show you a few controls that are as well available here under the three dots in the bottom right corner. Here you do have some repeated options with the lock meeting and the waiting room, but you also have the ability to turn on or off the exit and entry chime. That's something only the host hears when a participant will join or leave the meeting. You can also set a few of the participant options here, and whether or not they are muted upon entry, you can turn that off if you wanted to across the board. And you can also prevent people from unmuting themselves if you didn't want that here. And so let's then have a look at Dr. Google. When we hover over Dr. Google, who is in the waiting room right now, we have the choice to admit that user, or we can remove them. We can also message them in the waiting room. That's a new feature Google has added. So at this point, let's admit Dr. Google. And Dr. Google is joining us now. And there's Dr. Google. So what I want to do is just continue on with the having a look at a few of the items in the participants window. And these are similar options to what the participants will have on their own devices. They do have the options across the bottom here to add some indicators to their screen name. You'll see in the participant list up here that these options will appear beside the name when they're clicked. So if you're wanting to take a vote of yes or no, you can do that by asking participants to click on these. You'll see at the top that the numbers will change based on how many people have clicked yes or no. Also, the same thing happens for go faster, go slower, and then under the more, you do have some other options here, thumbs up, thumbs down. People can clap if somebody needs a break. And also if somebody goes away for a moment, they can indicate that they're away from their screen for a few moments. You as the host have the option to clear everybody's icons at once. Down here you also have the option to mute all or unmute all participants. So if somebody in the background is making a noise where the dog's barking, something along that line, instead of trying to search through the list and figure out who it is that's making the noise, you just mute them all. If you do have another participant that's actually speaking at that time, be reminded that they will be muted as well. If you are wanting to send out an invite to anybody, you can do that from here. And if you have an email program installed on your computer, or Gmail or Yahoo connected to your Zoom account, you can click any of these and send it out directly. You can copy the invitation and paste it into your own email program, or simply copy the URL and paste it somewhere. If you're looking to manually give people the information to join the meeting ID is at the top here, and the password is down at the bottom, knowing that they will need both of those pieces of information if they're not clicking directly on the link that embeds both those details in it. And people joining from a tablet or a smartphone quite often don't have the option to click on the link, and they do need the meeting ID and then separately need the password. So we'll close that, and we're going to click back on Manage Participants to close that window out for us. Having a look at the Polls tab gives you the option to either add a question if you haven't created polls, or if you had polls already created, they'd be listed here, and then you can launch them. And then the chat window, if you click on that, it opens up the chat. Right now there are no chat messages, but I would have the choice to chat with everybody in the meeting or just Dr. Google. And that's a similar experience for the participants on their end. They have the choice to chat with all participants or just privately amongst each other. You can share files, and you can also type in links in the message area here. And Google has recently removed the ability to type in links or live links, so you can't type a link and have a participant click directly. They would have to copy and paste that link out of the chat and into their web browser. So in here, you can, under the three dots that are off to the right, you have more options. And this just allows you to decide on who participants can chat with, whether it's no one, just you as the host, or anybody from a public perspective. So having a look a little further along here, we get into sharing your screen. This is quite a lot to pay attention to in this option here, so that you know what the abilities of the Zoom interface are for when you're working with students or presenting to a group. If you have more than one screen on your computer available on your computer, you can actually choose which screen you want to share the materials from. Something to be cautious on is if you choose a screen, anything that appears on that screen will be shared out to your audience. Whereas if you choose an actual window, that's all they see. Regardless of what you're looking at on your screen, all they would see is that particular window. If you are going to share any kind of material out that has sound attached, you want to check this box here at the bottom so that the sound goes with it. For instance, if you're showing a video, there is a built-in whiteboard. You can show materials from the iPhone or an iPad. And if you come into your Advanced tab, you can share just a portion of your screen. Not exactly sure why you'd want music or computer sound only, but if so, that's an option. And if you wanted to actually hook up a secondary camera to your computer, for instance, a document camera or a webcam pointing in another direction, you could, and then choose it here. And if you're wanting to share files, you can link any of these cloud services to your account as well and share the file directly on the screen. So right now, I'm just going to go back and share my main screen here. And I apologize that that is just sharing what's on the screen. And right now I have nothing. So there, I just brought up a window for the N.O.A.T events site. And that is now broadcast out to all of our participants. And they're seeing whatever I'm doing, including my moving of the mouse. So something we'll have a look at right now. We'll come back to pause share in a moment, but the Annotation Tools, if you click on those, it gives you the options up here to decide whether you want to add text, whether you want to draw. You can add some predefined stamps. You can also add or turn the spotlight on. If you do so, then as you move your mouse around, they'll see that a little bit easier to follow on their end. You can also choose an arrow, and then when you click with the arrow, it will stay and point at whatever it is that you are trying to highlight until you click it somewhere else, then it moves. Eraser does exactly what you'd expect it to do, and under Format is where you choose your colors, your line widths, fonts, and font sizes. Undo, redo. The Clear menu I apologize, you have to undo the eraser first. There, the clear menu, you as a host get the option to clear all drawings, just your own drawings, or just the viewer drawings. And on the participant's end, with their annotation toolbar, they can clear their own as well if they want. The save gives you a screen capture, and then you can click the X to close the annotation tools. The annotation tools are found in different places on different devices, whether it be in the toolbar, if you're the host, and if you're on a tablet, quite often it's found in the lower left corner in the shape of a pencil or pen type icon. And as well, if you're on a PC or a Mac, you'll often find the annotation tools are at the top in your view options of your Zoom toolbar. Okay, so we'll close the annotation tools. And we'll come back down here. An interesting feature to do with the sharing that they've provided is the pause share. If you click on that pause share button, anything I do on my computer right now is going to be just for my benefit. So if I wanted to go out to Google and ask it a question, I could do that. Then I would switch back to my screen that I wanted to share and resume sharing. The other thing that this is really handy for is if I wanted to set up a screen and have people see that when the new screen when I resume, instead of having to watch me change things around. So the pause share is quite handy. The remote control. Here, as a host, I would have the option to give my mouse and keyboard control to any one of the participants. You don't really ever want to auto-accept all requests of anybody wanting to control your computer. That could be a little dangerous. The remote control from you as a host wanting to control a participant's computer. In order to make that work, the participant needs to share their screen, and then once they share their screen, at the top they have the option under the view options to be able to give you control, as well as once you're watching their screen, you as well have in the same location under view options, have the chance to request control of their computer. So if you're doing any remote support, that's where you'd find that option. And then under the More tab, while you're screen sharing, you get an awful lot of different options here. You can bring up your chat window again. You can bring up breakout rooms. You can choose whether you're recording or stopping recording. If you are currently recording, it gives you the stop options. If you're going to turn on closed captions and assign that to a service provider or a person to type, you can disable participants' ability to annotate and so on. There's other different options down here. And there, if you want to end the meeting, that's where you would do it. But I want to come back up here to breakout rooms for a moment. I want to show you here that you can assign, right now we only have one participant, Dr. Google, but if you had more, you'd be able to assign the people into various rooms, and whether it's done automatically or you do it manually. Once you choose to make those choices, then you get to create your rooms, and they would be listed here. You rename them if you want, delete them if you want, and then shows that in this instance, Dr. Google was assigned to breakout room 1. You could, if there was more than one breakout room, you could move people around if you'd like. You can choose to start all over again, or you can set some options here. And if you want to move all the participants into the breakout rooms automatically, whether you want them to be able to return to the main session, which remains open, or not, and you can automatically close the breakout rooms after a certain amount of time. So you could give them 10 minutes for a discussion, and then automatically they're brought back into the main room. And if you're going to do that, you'd want to set the countdown timer to give them a warning that they're coming back into the main room. So those are some of the options that you can choose there, and then you would open all rooms. Couple things to note with the breakout rooms. You yourself, once the breakout rooms are open, have the option to join any one of those rooms, and then you can come back in, join another room. So you can go in and, as the host, go in and out of each room as you wish. Recording of the breakout room sessions does not happen unless somebody in that room manually records on their own computer. The main room continues to be recorded through the host controls. So breakout rooms have a lot of different options, or a lot of different possible options to be able to use them for when you're working with groups and doing presentations or trainings. So when you want to stop your sharing, you click the red Stop Sharing button. If you hover over the green toolbar, you can move the tools on your screen if they're in your way. And that about concludes the host tools. So I will see you all in the question and answer. Welcome to Zoom. So that was the presentation of the host controls, and now we're back in. We'll take some questions and answers here. Hopefully everything worked with that video playback, and I'm just going to start my video here so that you can see my smiling face, and we'll stop the share of that. Okay, so if anybody has any questions or comments, please feel free to type them into the chat and or unmute yourself and come online and raise your questions. So I have a question here from Leanne asking where are the recordings stored. The recordings are stored if they're on your local computer. Zoom creates or allows you to create a folder afterwards. When you finish the meeting, it then pops up a window asking you to choose where you save your file, and then it will convert it. So it does take some resources of your computer after the meeting in order to process that video file and do the final save. If you're saving it in your saving it into the cloud recording, if you have a paid Google account, then that cloud recording is accessed through the meeting controls in your Zoom account when you log in at zoom.us. So, and Anne is asking, is there a maximum time limit for meetings? Great question, Anne. The fact that's one of the stumbling blocks of the free account is if they limit you to 40 minutes once you add more than 2 people. So you and one person can have an unlimited meeting with the free plan. As soon as you bring in a third person, though, you are limited to 40 minutes. Now, during our COVID-19 times, they are actually extending that 40 minutes. Either I've seen it happen during live meetings. In the middle, there will be a pop-up that shows that the meeting has time limit has been removed, and some accounts, if they're educational based, then they actually have that removed as well. But generally speaking, you're limited to 40 minutes. In a paid account, the only limit is 24 hours. And then after that, you can, if you have to have a meeting that goes on for longer than 24 hours in one sitting, well, first of all, I'm sorry for that. And secondly, you'd have to start or stop the meeting and then restart a second meeting. So hopefully that answers Anne's question and Leanne's question. Are there any other questions? Anybody like to join us live by unmuting or in the chat? Okay. All right. As Karen is just saying that she does have to run to another meeting, and I agree. Although somebody is just coming online here with a question live.
Doug, just Linda Petty, just wanted to say that was a great presentation. Your kind of offline recording one, and certainly shows the capability of using this. Really appreciated the various features that were helpful. Thanks.
Yes, thank you, Linda. And it's a tough tool to demonstrate because of the different ways that it works, and trying to compress this, even if I had the full hour, trying to compress this into it. A really nice way to train people on how to do Zoom, and I've done this with a lot of my colleagues on a one-to-one basis, is you'll launch a group session similar to what we've done today, but you'll leave out the host portion, and then that allows you to pay a lot more attention to the workings of all the other parts. And then what you do is you have everybody go away as homework. They set up an actual meeting so that you're testing them on the ability to schedule a meeting and set it up. They then send you a link, and then you join in. At that point, they are the host. You as the trainer hopefully know the controls well enough because you're trainer, that you then can effectively tell them what to do kind of by your own rote memory, and then have them do that while you're there to support them if they run into any problems. And that gives them the one-on-one support of hosting a meeting and trying it out. So yeah, there's a lot more that we haven't talked about today, and a lot more detail, a lot of other creative ways that assistive technologists and coaches and counselors could use Zoom that I just didn't have the time to go into detail on. So, and we do have some other notes here. The recorded demonstration YouTube is excellent. We'll be posting that for viewing. It'll be part of this session as well, so yes. And is there any other institutions, the IT departments, that are routinely attempting to put out Zoom security related fires on the daily basis? Yes, Caleb, there are quite a lot of institutions worldwide that are doing that, and I will tell you that Zoom is constantly updating their interface and responding to those security concerns that are out there. I had to redo part of the presentation for today, and just because Zoom decided to do another update just yesterday, I think it was. And that's actually something that I will just quickly show people here if I can manage to convince Zoom to do it. Zoom has the typical interface that we all used to be aware of is something along this line, where you get the listing of your meetings, where I had you in showing the meeting, the scheduling the meeting. This is I apologize, apparently the Zoom expert in the room forgot to share my screen. So let's share the screen, and then you'll see what I was, hopefully you'll see what I was looking at. This is what I wanted to show you here. I'm hoping that it's going to show up. I apologize, it's not going to show up because it is a Zoom control, and that's again why I did the screencast. This is something that is, it's more like an app interface is the only way to describe it. And that app interface gives you the same abilities, it's just things are put in a different location. So some of you might have a different interface when you go to launch Zoom. It seems like every time I'm logging into my account at a randomized interval over the last day or two, I've been getting either the old interface or the new interface. A lot of the educational and corporate plans are forced into the new interface. They've been that way for a while. So the options are still there. Everything that I have described and shown and demonstrated is still there. It's just they might be in slightly different spots on the screen. So, and a lot of the security issues, Caleb, have been addressed just in 2 recent updates. So, and a question here from Leanne, is anyone using Microsoft Teams for their virtual platform? I welcome anybody to add in here, as Anne has, that Queen's University is using Teams, and or to share an experience by coming on live if you'd like. And yes, Jane is just echoing that the security is getting better, and locking down settings, and that's a whole other, well, I shouldn't say a whole other webinar session, but it's definitely another session if we wanted to talk about how to lock things down and set up your options in the program. And Leanne is also saying that they use Teams for students. So I'm not seeing any other questions or comments rolling in here. Is there anybody that wanted to unmute themselves and join in live? Okay, then in respect of time, it's about 5 after 1 in the afternoon. I think we'll end this webinar. The replay will be posted for us shortly, as soon as I can get on to showing or to processing the recording. And at this point, I just want to thank everybody for their time, and I want to remind everybody to practice their happy distancing, and have a great Easter, and thanks for joining us today. Just remember, you can't spell education without AT.